interested in biodiversity. Biodiversity is the end product of all evolution. It's patterns in species, patterns in genetics, and patterns in environment, and how it all fits together to produce global variation in life. Evolutionary change takes place at local scales in local populations. So individuals live, die, and interact with their environments, usually in very small spatial areas. And some individuals reproduce better and more often than others, and they leave more descendants, and that's evolution. So it's all local processes happening in local populations of species. So linking big macro evolutionary global scale patterns in biodiversity to fine scale evolutionary change has been quite difficult until recently. Our approach has been to look both focally at specific species and how they change, and then try to link this to global patterns of genetic diversity. The Arctic is warming 4 times faster than the global average. We have research on mostly Arctic marine mammals. So we study polar bears and Arctic whales, and then we also study the subarctic species that are moving into the Arctic as the climate warms. We're seeing killer whales and other subarctic whales move into the Arctic, where they're eating and disrupting all the endemic Arctic evolved whales. We're using genetics to figure out where these whales are coming from, how they might be adapted to future climate change, and just watching the whole ecosystems change. And we're learning details there. The University of Manitoba is well placed to study Arctic species. I think we're world leaders in that respect, and we have world-leading government research agencies in the region and access to the Arctic. The goal is to get all the data on the internet, and then we're synthetically analyzing these data sets to see just how generalizable the patterns are. I think I always liked biology. I liked camping. I liked being outdoors, so I just was naturally drawn to biology as an undergrad. And I got to know one prof after breaking my arm playing rugby, actually. He didn't typically share notes, but I was like, I can't write notes. So he printed notes for me, and we got to know each other. And he took me on for an honors project. So I stayed with the same advisor and got a master's degree, also studying different aspects of bat evolution. So I did my PhD at Trent University in Ontario on flying squirrel behavior and evolution. That's where I started to think about climate change and species moving their ranges and just how that played out evolutionarily. After my PhD, I went to Oxford for just under 4 years. I studied birds, got more into genomics, and then I came here. What's next? We're slowly growing our species group to really dig into the consequences of climate change in the Arctic. We're now becoming increasingly interested in maladaptation. One of the more exciting areas of research was looking at population health. The idea there is once you lose genetic diversity, you're less able to adapt to the rapidly changing environment. A loss of genetic diversity is a lagging indicator of a population doing poorly. I learned you can actually estimate any individual's age from their tissue using a technique called epigenetics. We've got our genome, but our genome is chemically marked, and often these times are marked just to turn genes off and on, like it's evolutionarily on purpose. But there's regions of the genome that just accumulate marks across time predictably. So it's just a genomic signature of how old you are. And so we can get tissue samples and estimate how old you are from your genome, and we can do it really well. We found that polar bears are aging more quickly with time. So they're aging on average 17% of their lifetime faster. And this has all kinds of correlated issues. Polar bear health decline with climate change, and we're generating data now. We don't have that level of data for polar bears elsewhere, but the next step is going to be to use this technique for all the Canadian polar bear populations. I think there's lots of ideas about how fun it is to go study polar bears and whales, and there's a little bit of that, but it's very expensive. For this type of research, you're going to get your hands on lots and lots of data. And so the first skill for this is curiosity and interest in crunching numbers. In terms of hardcore skills, quantitative skills are the best. In terms of intangibles, you just gotta be curious.